Welcome to the O Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Strike, 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 strike.
What is that?
Oh, brother
Sweatshop. I love that. Absolutely love that. It might be the best bit you've ever come up with. I gotta say, folks, I didn't know he was going to pull this out. I absolutely love it. I'm dying inside because that is just too funny. It is July 27th.
Do you know, there was nobody to do my makeup.
Yeah, July 27, 2023, when you're getting this, when we're recording this episode of the O Brother Podcast.
Right.
Mike, we are going to be talking about, if it wasn't evident by your prop there, we're going to be talking about the, because everybody else has been talking about this. We're like, we ought to be talking about this. We'd certainly been talking about this offline.
Correct.
And I think when one of our other favorite topics began to intersect with this topic, I said, we got to talk about this. So,
yeah.
One of the things we like to talk about most on the podcast is, of course, Disney.
Really?
So, yeah. So, believe it or not, folks, the writers and the actors strike does have something in common with that other topic of Disney. So, Mike, you want to set this up? What we're gonna, talk about, or
yeah, basically, the Writers Guild went on strike over a month ago,
May 2nd, 2023,
and now the actors, as of last week, went on strike.
Well, officially, it was like July 14th.
Was it July 14th? Yeah, it's about 2 weeks.
A couple weeks, yeah.
And so basically, all production, film, TV is virtually shut down right now because, nobody's crossing the lines. Probably people have seen on the news Mark Ruffalo and Bob Odenkirk walking the lines like they're little people like us.
Bryan Cranston and so
Brian
forth.
Cranston, Fran Drescher.
So I can already see you're taking a very sort of pessimistic,
no,
one-sided view, because you're throwing out some comments that you're probably going to get you some comments after we air
maybe
this episode.
But if people hang in with me, I'm really neutral on this because it affects all of us, and and people might be watching this,
but I don't think
it's going to affect you at home.
It'd be interesting if you can convince me to be neutral, because I don't think I'm neutral.
Oh, are you on?
Well, we'll talk through it.
Okay.
But okay, so as you said, the writers, the
and
Writers
who are
Guild,
they on strike against?
The AMPTP. So this first time that they have both gone on strike together in 60 years.
Right. It's not. They're separate. Now that's the other thing. This isn't like the actors joined the writers and this is a one strike. The actors are on strike and the writers are on strike,
right?
And they have different goals,
right? But for all intents and purposes, they're in solidarity in strike against the corporate monsters,
right? But every time, because you just said the key thing, that this is the first time in 60 years where both are on strike,
right?
Normally, but they've been on strike before. 2007, 2008 was the last time, and normally when they go on strike like this, both of them, the writers come to an agreement and then a month later the actors come to an agreement. So don't think it's going to end all at once. Likely not.
Right. One side might reach a resolution and the other side it might drag on, and nobody knows how long this is going to go on for.
Right.
It seems like it could be quite a while, though. Now, how long did the last one go for? Do you remember?
It went for at least, it was over 90 days. I know that.
Okay. And this was,
I think it was up to 6 months. It was a really bad one. Yeah.
So now, can you break down the, sort of what the points are of each side between the writers versus what the actors are really kind of striking against?
Yeah. Well, if you're a writer today, you get a hit TV show, you get to write 8 episodes, right? We watched some of your favorite shows.
Well, that I think what you're really commenting on there more is the streaming model now that we have. It wasn't that way with the network
Correct.
model because it was,
Correct.
which is part of why this argument has come to surface.
Right. Streaming is the big key here.
Right.
That's the
Streaming and AI. Streaming and
right.
AI.
Those are the two big issues. Streaming is not paying residuals, which that was one of the last strikes.
Correct.
In the old model, when you're on network TV, you have to do 5 years. That's why you see a lot of shows. This is the end of our, conclusion of our series. They stop it at 4 years so they don't have to pay residuals. But now with streaming, there is no deal. In fact, Netflix specifically puts in their contract, you won't be getting anything else. This is it. Here.
Well, did a show have to go 5 years to be syndicated? Was that?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the rule. Maybe it changed.
So
but
until it gets in syndication, that's what kicks in the reruns.
Correct.
So okay. So what is it? So you're saying, you're saying season 1 to 4,
nothing.
They're being reshown, replayed, re-aired, but they're not paying out at that point?
Correct. Like if it's a repeat, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
But if you hit 5 years, then that residual thing kicks in. And for some people, they live off that.
Yeah.
Like I brought up Gilligan's Island, I don't know why, but, back then when they were, think of those shows, they shot every week for like 50 weeks out of the year. And it's been in reruns how many times? I mean, you can watch Gilligan's Island probably any time of the day in any place in the country.
Right.
But they don't get paid. Now, I think in the last strike, they got they threw them a bone. But like Arrested Development, there's a more recent one that went to 4 seasons. Didn't get to the 5th. Now, the quality had dropped off because Fox wasn't really backing it.
Yeah, no, you had mentioned that, with the streamers, they're not getting residuals. That's not really true. It's just how that residual amount is determined, which is, you've got the studio,
right,
that is selling the content to the streamer, right? So there's
Correct.
a licensing deal going on. And so the streamer then says, okay, we're gonna pay out a percentage of that licensing deal. That's what trickles down to the content creators and the performers, which, as we've seen in the news just in the last few days, these residual checks of like a penny, 26 cents.
Some of those they weren't. One, you sent me a picture of Eric Bogosian, who had a bunch of 1 cent. That was probably talk radio back in the day.
No, because there's a woman who was one of the regulars on Orange is the New Black.
I was going to bring that up.
It was like $20 or something like that.
Right.
This was a hit show. It's like Netflix top show.
But that was the first show to see anything. That was the first hit show in streaming. Right. And it's already gone, right? And they're getting, like you said, nothing for it.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix makes a profit, but they won't tell how much. They won't tell how many streamers they get. They hold that information like it's gold. All the other streamers are basically losing money because they all came out with cheapo deals for like I got Disney Plus for $3.99 for 3 years. Now, when that comes due, it'll at least double, probably triple because of the price.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because of the strike.
Yeah.
So it's a real conundrum because the companies, like say you work, Amazon has Amazon Prime, right? I pay $120 a year. Used to be $60, but now it's $120. But it's still worth it for free shipping and all that. I can buy something for 50 cents and it ships free.
Right.
But, how does Amazon say they take your $120? How do they carve it up? How do they know how much is going to streaming? Likely they do, Dan, but they're not telling us. And
Well,
they're not.
you gotta believe they do.
I got to believe they know the stats, and they're not being transparent. They're all saying, well, we don't know. Like Disney Plus.
Right.
Um, remember Warner Brothers during the this streaming grew massively during the epidemic.
Pandemic, yeah.
And what happened was, as they got bigger, shows moved from network to, over to streaming.
Mhm.
It was, they were getting better deals up front,
Right.
but somebody, and I blame some lawyers for this, because somebody wasn't paying attention. Somebody wasn't forward thinking enough. We talk about a visionary, which Disney is lacking right now. Did that come out?
Yeah, we're getting to
Um,
that.
so, like, Disney is losing big money on their streaming. People think,
Well,
oh, it's Disney,
yeah, I mean, their
The-
their stock continues to plummet.
yeah, the only thing profitable with them right now is the parks. The
Mhm.
thing that they have abused the most, especially under the Chapek era.
The fair wages is also kind of sort of on the agenda here of things that they're fighting for, and
Correct.
um, I didn't
Eh,
know the details, but it if you're in the guild, the writers guild, in particular, I don't know if it's the same for the actors, but 26,000 a year to get insurance. That's the threshold that you need to meet, and most of them are not making that.
Correct.
And that is part of the thing, right? Is that it is a weird kind of thing, as you said earlier. It's like you see like Bryan Cranston and all the top stars
Right.
that are out there, and it does seem to present a little bit of a, not, I wouldn't say a contradiction, but it's a little weird because, like, pay us more money, and yet
Right.
they're the top paid. But what are they going to do? Not stand in solidarity with
Correct.
their
But
guild brothers and sisters?
there's a worry that there's going to be a wedge eventually if this
Right.
keeps going, which it's predicted to go. If by now already the fall
Hmm.
lineup is done,
Hmm.
it's gone. Even if tonight they say the strike's over,
Yeah.
fall TV is going to be game shows.
There was a great article in the Hollywood Reporter just
Yeah.
yesterday. I think it came out, called "Strike Fallout," and there was a lot of other, like, smaller stories in there about the topic. But in this whole conversation now about that streamers are having, in their boardrooms about, like, are we going to hold this content? Are we going to release it? What are we going to do? Because part of the deal is, their stars can't go out and promote it.
Right.
Right? There's no talk shows. There's nowhere to
Same
promote these
thing's going
things.
on with the
So
movies.
what do you do? What do you do?
Right.
Do you hold it back? And then all of a sudden your audience dries up even more, and we've made this point that this is coming at such a critical moment, especially for the box office,
Correct.
especially for theaters. We've done numerous episodes on that. And Iger himself said this in his now infamous speech in Sun Valley, um, for CNBC, where he stuck his foot deep in
And
his
and
billionaire
Iger
mouth.
is who
No,
for the
does
audience?
anybody not know who Bob
They
Iger is?
might not. He's the most
He's the
powerful man in
CEO of
media.
Disney right now, and he's
But
like cut his teeth in ABC is where he
right,
came up through,
right,
and he's
but
considered usually to be sort of a talent friendly
right.
CEO corporate type, you know.
But he came back to Disney. He retired,
Hmm.
and then
Right?
Bob J.Peck, who's completely incompetent, and they gave a 3-year extension to, which was his golden parachute.
Yeah, yeah.
They blow him out, and they promise Iger. Iger says, "I'll give you 2 years." He
Right,
really said he didn't want to come back, but
right.
he'll come back to smooth things out.
And now he's back, and now
And
he's
now
back
he's back
longer
for
than
another two
anticipated.
years. Yep.
Right. And the word on the street is that he's turning grayer and grayer, and he didn't even anticipate the kind of shithole that he was stepping into, the shit
Right.
pile. But
Chapek drove Disney Plus
he had
so
mentioned,
underwater.
I circled around before you got me off the rails, was
Yeah.
in that interview he talks about the fact, the point I was about to make, which is that we cannot like the industry can't go through another pandemic like period.
No,
I don't think the theaters would survive it.
I don't think
Certainly.
so. I mean,
I don't know about TV and the streamers and but the theater, I don't know
no.
how they would survive it.
And right now, less than 50% of people have cable.
Mhm.
So people are streaming. That's how they're getting their major
Sure.
content.
Right.
And we saw all summer one bomb after another until we hit Barbie and Oppenheimer. So right when you're at the apex, you're going to walk out. The timing sucks.
It is interesting with the Barbenheimer thing that, now the backdrop, you've got this going on. I mean, you couldn't have predicted this would happen, but I was wondering, go ahead.
I was going to say that was like, one time Warner Brothers probably wanted those movies to do less.
Yeah.
So they could say, hey, we're not making enough money to pay you. But Barbie did 150 million, 170 million in the opening weekend. Come on.
I can't imagine
there's enough money to go around.
There was no studio exec rolling the dice on the films not making money. Come
on.
What
did Disney pay Bob Iger to come back? Something like 27 million a year.
Right. Yeah. Not to mention the performance-based pay that he gets, which is about the same amount.
That's what got Eisner in trouble.
Yeah, he
did a stock deal.
Right, and that's why the optics of this interview that he did with CNBC
was awful.
Are so bad.
Right.
There's even people that anonymously have come out and said that wasn't a good look. He's out there at this what do they call it? They call it the billionaires camp.
Yeah,
they were all out there in Sun Valley having this powwow, and he came out and he said. He basically said this was a disruption. What they're doing is a disruption. And he went on to say that what they're expecting is unrealistic.
Right.
We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We wanted to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
And then you probably then, if you haven't, go out and see it online. The nanny, who, of course, Fran Drescher is the president of SAG-AFTRA. She came out and had some choice words for Iger in response to those comments, like just how tone deaf someone at his level could be.
Right.
It
is shocking. And especially a guy who replaced a guy who was incompetent. And he knew, he told them, don't put this guy in charge. And he sunk the ship for Disney.
It's interesting because if you go and I don't know if you've seen the interview with him, but with David Faber on CNBC, but it's fairly short. I mean, they talk about a lot of other things. They talk about just the state of Disney in general, the supposedly low reported attendance at the parks, which really wasn't factually correct. It was, but anyways, and the battles with the government here and all of that. And so, but most of what he says there, I agree with in the interview, except for this statement about what they're asking for is unrealistic. This expectation that they have, people cough on podcasts all the time. We don't need to delete it. You all right? You dying on me?
Yeah, no.
Is this the end,
I don't know what it is.
Is this the end? I think it's the end of Oh Brother. Well, you want to
come
out.
Residuals go.
You want to come out and say some nasty shit at the top of the episode. Karma's going to get you in the ass.
Yeah.
But, it made me. So I was just saying that,
So what were the issues he brought up that you agreed with?
He didn't peel the layers back enough to say this is what they're being unrealistic about or whatever.
Right.
He didn't, and the guy didn't really grill him to go down into the details.
And to stay on the media thing is, I forget, it might have been the Hollywood Reporter also came out with a story about a week and a half ago that said, and it was supposedly an anonymous source that was an executive who said, we're going to shut this thing down until the writers start losing their houses.
Yeah, and then along comes Ron Perlman.
Oh, folks. Man, go to TMZ and watch the Ron Perlman.
Right, you'll see. Ron had a few choice words for that person, too.
The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial, some of it is karma, and some of it is just figuring out who the said that. And we know who said that. And where he lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful.
So, it made me think about, like, what about the advance of things like CGI, right? And
Right.
like with the Mandalorian and the introduction of the volume, how they record on the volume, right? That big sort of 360 stage where they can kind of project these landscapes and whatever they want up there, right? It's unbelievable technology with Favreau and all of them that are doing that. What about that in terms of how that impacts, set builders and people in those unions and things? Like, has there been an issue there? Where's the case? I don't know. I just wonder how many other layers there are to this.
Well, there's a ton. I mean,
That-
we're not a monetized site. We're not big enough. But there's
Right.
websites
Yet, folks. Yet.
But
That's OHB as in brother podcast.com.
well, put it on your LinkedIn and we'll be,
LinkedIn.
monetized.
Linktree. I don't know what you're talking
I thought you were on LinkedIn.
We're
But
on LinkedIn. Yeah. Oh, my LinkedIn. Yeah, I got
right.
you.
The fallout, we have a niece that was working in production and, kind of like a grunt job, like, you do this, or she would have to cattle
What if
the
she
extras.
thinks it's the most glamorous job in the world and you're
Well,
calling
no,
it
it's a
grunt
job she likes.
She's home right now going,
No,
I
it's a
was
job
happy
she
with my life
likes.
10 minutes ago.
Right. No.
And then my
But
uncle got on
But
the
she's
mic
not
and he said,
working
I'm
right now
Wow.
because of this strike.
Have you been talking to her?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting because and again, she'd be the first one to admit, she's not, she can't get the insurance. She's not making that much.
Right.
And those issues are just, it's a trickle down and it's going to affect.
So where does
streaming online?
Where does your neutrality come in that you were talking about at the beginning?
Well, I see.
How could you possibly be on the other side of this?
No, I
I think what it is
side.
I think it's more. I think maybe more what you were getting at was as a consumer,
correct,
and not getting the next series of this or that.
Correct.
Or,
no, not that. But let's go to the end game,
like Barbie 2.
Right. Let's go to the end game because this is going to end.
Right.
Maybe destroy the industry itself and redo it. I don't know, but it's going to end, right? When it ends, what's going to happen?
You tell me.
Where anyone who's streaming, you're going to pay double. Okay. Amazon Prime's going to go to 180.
Right. To make up
Disney
all
Plus
those costs.
is going to go to $20 a month.
Yeah.
So we get screwed. Okay. The writers and the actors get screwed. And the owners are like, hey, we put up the dough to make this film, to make this show.
Have you seen any details as to what the offer was? Because there was this statement in the headlines from AMPTP about, SAG-AFTRA,
we made them a great offer.
They walked away. It's a shame they wouldn't negotiate with us, but
that was a political stunt.
What were the terms? Of course. So what were the terms of that deal? I'm sure.
I don't know. Do you? Do you know it?
But I'm sure it didn't get them any closer to where they wanted to be. But you're right. I think that was just a political stunt,
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, I think there could be some irony here that we might indirectly get our wish that there could be an impact or a change to the award show season.
Right.
What's
the
going to happen
Emmys are
with
already
the Emmys?
gone.
Well, no, they're not gone. They're not gone. They just it's in a holding pattern, right?
Yeah, it'll go.
It's supposed to be in September.
Right. And they're already saying it's going to be next year.
Yeah.
Because, these things, they end, but they don't end good.
Yeah. Just make it never.
Right.
We don't need them. That
Yeah,
they're
you've already
pointless,
got your,
pointless.
that's what makes the stars, the big stars, look kind of petty.
Yeah.
Do you think somebody like, Pacino or De Niro, are they worried about this strike? You're going to see them on the picket
I
lines?
mean,
No.
they might be worried for those that are most impacted by it, and I think that is the message that people like that you've seen be very vocal, like Bryan Cranston and others.
Right.
And look, The Rock put his money where his mouth is, or whatever. He gave a 7-figure donation to the cause. So I mean, that's not nothing.
Right.
But yeah, it is a weird kind of juxtaposition, right?
Yeah.
It's how there's why does
The
this one get? I mean, it gets very sociological, and
and the
it's
worst
a
part is, like I
socioeconomic
said,
conversation. But
in the end, we all lose. Right now, like every night, I watch an episode of Perry Mason.
and then
Okay.
I thought I heard taps playing very softly in the distance, like
What?
like a Christmas story. We're bringing it down to a real downer.
Yeah. Okay.
There. It's a
So I'm
real
watching
buzzkill.
on streaming a site called Freevee,
Mhm.
which is
Everybody
what it
has
says.
Freevee, right?
Right. Freevee,
Tubi, right.
their prime content is going to get sucked away by the streamers, because the streamers, they're not making money. They're not. Netflix is making money, but the other ones. So there's where I kind of get into the neutrality issue.
Well, but you said yourself, we don't really know
we don't
what they're
know,
making or what they're not making.
but I do know for a fact that Disney Plus was totally underwater when Bob Iger came back.
Right.
His first thing, what did he do? He fired
Mhm.
people from Pixar, their
Right.
best studio release
Mhm.
segment. He fires people. He fired the woman, you said her name, Christine
McCarthy.
Christine
Right.
McCarthy's one of the ones that went behind Chapek's back to Iger
Get him out.
and said, "Will you come
We
back?"
got to get this guy out. Yeah.
He blew her out.
Yeah. Well,
She's home. She's at the
Iger-
picket lines.
Iger certainly isn't worried, and he's not worried about the future of Disney. He said as much, he said, look, this company's 100 years old. You see it in the interview, and he talks about, even Eisner, even Walt. I mean, there was peaks and valleys, and
Correct.
every valley always had a peak,
Correct.
So I don't know.
And-
It seems
and-
like this is going to drag on for quite some time.
And what showed us, if Barbie and Oppenheimer tanked,
Mhm.
I was ready to do an episode just about that. I talked to you about it off air. And I said, we got to cover this because something's really wrong when Mission Impossible
Mhm.
and Indiana Jones 5 and well, we weren't that surprised by Flash, which started the tanking.
Mhm. Although you said it wasn't as horrible as it was pointed out.
It wasn't as horrible. Honestly,
to be fair.
When you see it,
Yeah.
I think, Ezra Miller's taking all the blame.
So what happens?
Or
What's
getting
going to
all
be?
the blame.
What's going to become of what was supposed to be a pretty strong fall, where a lot of films we've already either done a first look on, or we've done a different episode on. We just did an episode on what looks to be, I think, could have been, whatever we need to say now. Maybe up for Best Picture, certainly, which is Killers of the Flower Moon, the Scorsese film. You've got Dune Part 2. You got the Marvels, which we've talked about here, Napoleon, and Wonka, right?
Right.
Are they
even going to come out?
Are they going
know.
to push him? Because it's I wouldn't want to be in the seat to make that decision.
No, because the executives are going to say, we put it out, we're going to get nothing.
Now, one like Killers of the Flower Moon, it was only already going to have a very small theatrical release. So I don't know why you would hold from releasing that on Apple TV, right? Just continue with that
correct.
plan. But the
just
others,
like Warner Brothers, remember
Dune
Warner
Part 2?
Brothers, right?
If you can't have Timothée Chalamet out there doing, because they're not even allowed, they're prevented from even promoting it on social media or anything.
Right. And
so what do you do?
Like I said, it even affects us now because Dan's been working behind the scenes to set up some interviews that now we're likely not going to get.
Right.
And, you know, that's the trickle down of this. And,
Right.
and again, in the end, everybody's going to go back to work. Everybody, you know, people are going to lose their homes.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be pissed off. And we're in a time that, like you said earlier, it couldn't have been a worse time for a strike.
No, you couldn't have made it up.
You know, I mean, somebody, again, the lawyers who did all the, you know, legal stuff back when streaming was in its infancy.
Yeah.
I look at them and say they weren't bright lawyers. You know, they weren't forward thinking. You have to think ahead. AI, there were people who were thinking ahead.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that much. Yeah.
And, you know, and now it's coming to fruition. So all of a sudden, the guy that they were saying was a nutball a year and a half ago, he's on, you know, every talk show talking about AI.
Yeah.
So, you know, what happens with that?
I mean, I'm certainly in the camp with the strikers at this point.
I'm definitely more on that side.
Yeah, as much as it might impact. I mean, you don't have to look too far, but beyond Mike here in his physical media collection, he's going to be just fine, folks. He's going to be just fine. Yeah. And Mike, all right. So we probably should wrap
fair
this up.
wages.
We should wrap this up so Mike can get back on the picket line. So anything else to say about this topic? What's your prediction?
What's prediction is this doesn't get settled till next year.
It's going to be dark. It's going to be cold. And it's going to last for the rest of your life.
That's Chevy Chase, correct?
Oh, Jesus, folks.
Did I miss it?
Jesus. You know what? You should just leave and go on the picket line. It's Groundhog Day, for God's sakes.
Oh, right. Bill Murray.
Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Andy McDowell, the great Andy McDowell.
Right. There's another release.
Who is right. This cannot impact our Nelms Brothers' next release, Red Right Hand. I won't have it.
I won't have it.
I won't stand for it, folks.
Andy McDowell playing a heavy. I gotta see that. I want to see it right now.
Yeah, let's send some love out to a friend of the show, Johnny Durango, too, who just posted on his Instagram. Follow him out on Instagram about this film. He just wrapped with a director you might have heard of in the past by the name of Mel Gibson. And
only his sixth directorial.
Which is hard to believe. Hard to believe. And starring, of course, one of our good time friends, Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark, from local hero up there. So, but it's called Flight Risk. And it's in post-production, but super excited to see.
And again, will we get to see it in the theater?
Yeah.
Like, think we love the Nelms Brothers,
The Nelms, we love everybody within the Nelms universe.
And anybody related to it.
The Nelms cinematic universe, we call it.
They got screwed when Fat Man came out because of the pandemic. It went right to DVD. It didn't get a theatrical release.
That's true. And it's been some episodes since we've crowbarred that in, but if you haven't seen Fat Man, folks, you have to see it and you have to own it. Because it is a masterful film. It's because
you watch the film and then to listen to people like Johnny Durango, Ian Esham, Michelle, to listen to them talk about it, and it's just a great film. But the following year or last year, then there was all these like Santa's crazed killer. They were trying to copy.
Oh, definitely.
But got nowhere close.
Violent Night and all that stuff. Right. Let's just hope that this doesn't have a long-lasting impact on those films, at least. But
yeah, I think we're in for a long strike. I mean, that's what most of the experts think. And that's just not good for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I want the thing to get settled tomorrow. I wish I could go in and mediate.
Well, anything can happen, but it seems like they're very far away from
they're dug
coming
in.
to an agreement at this point. So, all right, well, listen, that's going to do it for another episode of the O Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Maybe I'll see you next time. I might be on the picket line. Bye,
Boo.
everyone.
Scab.
Boo.